In this part we are going to create the base color, and I'm going to start with the mortar. So I will go back here at the mortar and I will drag a connection from here because I don't need this undulation. And I will bring in a normal node here. Let's set the intensity to 10. I'm gonna move this base color. Here after the normal I'm gonna have a curvature smooth. And I will use this as an input to create two gradient maps. So first I'm gonna create a gradient map, and with this I'm gonna show you how you can sample some colors from your references. I'm not gonna sample the colors myself because I already have these gradient maps, and I will use them because I want to have the same color like you see in the final image. You will have to create your own gradient maps, so I'm gonna show you how you can do that. So you can bring up your references. If you don't have any references, you can just use this video and pick a color from here. So I'm gonna enter the gradient editor and I will pick a gradient. You can just pick multiple gradients until you are satisfied with something. And now I'm gonna duplicate this gradient map and sample some new colors because I want to create some variation here. And when you have two gradient maps that you like, you can just blend them. I'm gonna close this reference, and instead of using these two gradient maps, I'm gonna delete them and use what I had when creating the material. Now I'm gonna bring in a blend node and I will blend these. I forgot that I already have a blend here, so I will delete this. And now we can connect this to the base color. So here at the mask I will have a clouds too. I'm not gonna create a new one, just find the one that we used here. Let's connect this here. And I will safe transform this to increase the scale. Let's style this 3 times. And then I will also have a levels for some contrast. Here are the values I'm gonna have 0.5 at level in low, and 0.8 here. And this is what we have so far. I'm gonna create another gradient map and blend it on top of these two. For that I will use the same input as for this normal node, so I can just create a dot here and drag a connection from here. I will use an auto levels, and then a high pass grayscale. With this I'm gonna decrease the radius. And I will bring in my third gradient map. This gradient map is almost white. You don't need to use something like this, you can just find your own colors and just combine them as you like. So I will blend this here. Let's set the opacity to 0.5. And as a mask I'm gonna use these auto levels. And this was something like a base layer for the color. Now I'm gonna go forward and bring in some more color to the mortar. I think I will move this gradient map. I will move it here. And now I will have another gradient map. I think it's number 4. And I can drag a connection from this high pass grayscale. This is just a brownish color. And now I can use a HSL node to lighten this up. So I will have 0.58 here. Then I will have a blend here, and I will blend this with the main line. Let's set the opacity to 0.8. And I need a mask for this, so I'm gonna use the clouds 2 again. So I will drag a connection from here. And here I will have a transform to create another seed for this. So I will just move this. By the way, if your computer can't handle this, you can always switch back to 2K or 1K. Here after the transform I'm gonna have a levels. And the level out high to 0.6. And this is what we have so far. Next, I want to add some dirt to the mortar. So I will go back here at the mortar, and I have a dirt 1 node somewhere here. So I can drag a connection from here. And now I will bring in my other gradient. Let's bring in a blend here. And I will have this dirt one as the opacity mask also. So this is before, and this is after. And let's frame all these steps. I'm gonna call this dirt. And these as mortar color layer 1. And mortar color layer 2. Now let's get to the tiles. So I will start with this map that we have before the height blend, and this represents all the tiles that we have so far. Let's drag a connection from here. And bring in an auto levels. So as I said, this map represents all the tiles that we have so far. Now I will flood fill this to create some random grayscale values. So flood fill. Then I need a flood fill to random grayscale. And I need a histogram range. And this is to restrict the range here. I will have 0.3. And because I have variation here at these grayscale values, I can use this to create variation for the colors of the tiles. Here, after the histogram range, I will have a gradient which will specify the color of the tiles. You can go on and search for some colors that you like. So I will bring in this gradient map. And I need an HSL node for some adjustment. Let's add 0.46 at the saturation. And 0.4 at the lightness. I need more space here. So I'm gonna create 2 dots here and drag these down. Next, I want to create some more noise to this color. So I will just duplicate this gradient map. And as input, I will have a fractal sum 2. Let's blend this here. Opacity to 0.25. And as an opacity mask, I'm gonna have a grunge 3. Let's create some space and label these. I will call this tiles base color. And this as tiles noise. And now I want to create some more variation to this and create some darker patches. For that I will have a blend and let's drag everything forward. And I will use the mortar base color to subtract from this. So let's change to subtract. And set this to 0.4. And I want to create a mask here. So I will go back to the mortar and drag a connection from this black and white spots too. And I will blend this with a ground dirt. So bring in a ground dirt. I will also reverse these connections and set the opacity to 0.5. And then I will blend all these with the Perlin noise. Let's choose multiply. And I will connect this to the opacity. So now I got some darker patches for the tiles. For the tiles color, I wanna create one more layer of variation. For that, I will create another gradient. And as input, I will have the clouds to noise, which we have somewhere here. And let's blend this here. And I will choose add. This will lighten up my color a bit. Let's label all these and call it darker patches. I'm gonna connect this to the base color so we can see what we have so far. And next I want to add some details to the margins of the tiles, to these edges. So I will have an HSL. And reduce the lightness to 0.44. And I'm gonna blend this back with the original. Let's keep the HSL to the background. And for these edges, I need a mask. So I will go back to the height map, which I have here, I think. Yes, it's here. Let's bring in a normal map and change the intensity to 20. Then I will have a curvature map with the intensity of 6. Now I need the levels for some contrast. I will have the level in low to 0.55 and this to 0.65. Now let's invert everything. And hook this up at the opacity. Something doesn't look right at the base color. I'm gonna go forward now and I will check that a bit later. It's time to blend the mortar with the tiles. Let's bring in the blend node from the dirt here. I will have the tiles at the foreground. Let's connect this here. And now I need a mask with all the tiles. We had that here at the base color of the tiles. So I will add a dot and drag this over. Let's bring in the levels. And here at the values I will have the level in high to 0.35. And now I want to subtract all the tiles which have the back face texture. So let's bring in a blend and let's go all the way back to the back face texture. And let's choose subtract. And I need another levels here with the level in high to 0.6. Let's connect this to the blend. Okay, so the color looks very bad, and I just found out why. So I need to get back here to these darker patches and change the opacity here to 0.2. And I need to do one more thing, and that is here at this mask, this connection comes from the auto levels that we have here. So I will connect this here, and now it should work. All I will do here is to frame this and call it tile edges.